Yeah, I just gotta say it's an honor to have this discussion with you, Cairo. I've been, like I said, I've been following your journey.
Yeah,
It's been years since we actually talked, but we stayed in
yeah,
contact through social media.
yeah,
And it seemed like you was on the same kind of journey that I was, with faith and belief and so on and so forth. And
yes,
you it always led you to the Bible, which in my
yes,
case, it led me to the Bible no matter what source it was, whether
yeah.
it was text that came before the Bible
It
or
always
after the
take you back
Bible.
to it.
It always takes you back to it.
Yeah,
So, one of the good reasons that I'm glad that we connect is also because you said you was writing a book or you wrote a book and you wanted to
yeah,
publish it. So let's talk
yeah.
about that first.
Okay, so on my journey, it's been a grueling process, as I'm sure you understand, because I know a lot about your journey as well, and I follow you too. So, but just knowing you on a personal level as well, I know some of the things that you've endured, and so on my journey, I've endured a lot of hardships, I should say. It's not an easy path to take. It's a narrow road, right? And a lot of people ain't gonna take that path. So um along the journey, I didn't realize, but in hindsight, now I know that part of the purpose was for this book. And so just recently I like the floodgates open for me. Okay. And when it opened, and I wrote the book. I'm actually finished with it already. I have the completed manuscript. And so now I'm just looking into publishing. I don't really know how to do the personal, like the publishing on my own, and so it's a little confusing to me, that process. I did look into the information that you gave me, and I was still like, yeah, I don't know about that. I got two kids, so it's hard for me to do.
Yeah, yeah, I can help
um,
you. I can help you. It was kind of confusing for me too.
okay,
Like I
yeah,
had to run through it. And it was the when I first published my book, it went through a publisher,
yeah,
and
and
they
that's
did
what
all
I
the
was. I
stuff.
was looking into that also. It's a little pricey, but I'm willing to, go ahead if I need to do that, because I do want this book to be, I'm thinking like a global kind of level, you know what I'm saying? And so, but it's a book that is about deliverance. And so, that's actually the ministry that I feel I'm
I
being
like
called
that
into.
deliverance.
Yeah. So I'm being called into like deliverance ministry. And so all of the things that I've endured is leading up to this. And, yeah, it's a manual for deliverance. So anybody that is going through the journey, they can read this book and kind of place themselves, and it's my personal story, but they can place themselves in that position with whatever they're going through, and just read it as a manual to help themselves with deliverance, because self deliverance is a thing too. You can also be delivered through people who are anointed to do that and have the authority to be able to do that. But self deliverance is a real thing too. So
Yeah, I like that deliverance. That's very interesting because a lot of people that I talk to, a lot of the authors that I talk to, they said they wrote their book because of their own personal journey, whether it was
mhm.
fiction or facts or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Uh, it was all on a personal level. And the same thing with me when I wrote my book. I started off, because I'm so interested in different civilizations and religions
yeah,
and beliefs and stuff. I wanted to let the world know that I'm mixed with damn near everything. So
right.
to be honest with you, I don't have no
Right.
dog in this fight. I'm just interested in all this stuff. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So, but it all led me back to the Bible because in reality, as of right now, there is only one.
That's the
And
beginning and the end.
yeah, and that's with everything that I've read. It's just that the Bible was the format that we use today that we understand. It
Yeah,
may
well,
we
I think it's just a foundation,
Yeah,
it is like God is the literal foundation of everything. And so once you, like you said, you read a ton. I see all the books and everything that you like post. So it's like if everything's leading you back to this one thing, it's like
yeah,
everybody knows it. It's just for some, I think it's more difficult to like accept that,
yeah, yeah,
understanding that it's this one foundation that we all have to build upon,
yeah.
and however you got to get there, he'll take you through it so you can get there, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm not gonna lie, I lost faith at one time.
It,
I don't. I
that's
think that
natural.
yeah, I think that's where it starts at is you losing faith
Mhm.
because you want to build upon that with the foundation of your own, not what was directly given to you by your parents or your grandparents and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, my mom told me that my grandma wouldn't let me leave that house until I was baptized. You know, because I
Mm.
needed to be protected, you know, and you know, that's not by my choice, that's by
Right.
their choice,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, you know, losing faith and then rebuilding upon faith, no matter what it is,
Yeah.
just knowing that there is one, it was you know, the foundation of where I'm at right now, and that's
Yeah,
why
I think
nobody
that's
can.
just a part of the process
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah.
Is that you lack faith and then you have to go search for it, right?
Yeah, you gotta go literally
You
look
gotta
for it.
regain it. So that's part of the process with this whole thing. Like for me, um, we didn't grow up with a faith, you know, we didn't have that foundation of um going to church or anything like that. Everybody of course knows it's a God, right? It's a God. Well, not everybody believes, but we knew it was a God, and we knew about Jesus, but um I don't think my belief was in Jesus because I saw so many people like lacking
Yeah.
just that fruit, you know,
I know
and
what
not
you're
really
talking about.
living how they talking.
Yeah, yeah.
So as a kid, kids understand that, you know, and so um it wasn't there for me. And so like as I grew up and becoming like a young adult, I was living worldly. I was in the world. I was doing a lot of things that the world does. And so going on that journey and just life happening brought me to like a halt where it was like I couldn't ignore it anymore. And so um that's where my faith started to come in, and where my belief and search of okay, what am I looking for? Who am I, right? And so yeah, it just came into play there. Life knocked me down and I had to rebuild and just kind of figure out who I was, like at a core, like at my core, at the foundation of it all. And so Jesus was the one who built me back up. That was my foundation.
Yeah.
He is my foundation. He's everything for me. And I know because I couldn't do none of this without him. So
You know, it's amazing you brought up Jesus because you know people will argue what color skin he is, what he
yes,
did,
all the time.
or not what he did, but what color his skin he was.
Yeah.
He had where he came from, how he was born, and all this other stuff. But they don't never argue the fact that all he ever did, period, was went around and just try to help people. Like you
That's
can't
it.
find, I mean, you can find him doing childish things like every child would do because he was a child too.
Yeah.
But when he became an adult and when he recognized who he was, when you asked, "Who am I?" Because you know
Hmm.
you know there's times when we don't know about him. He was searching for himself. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying during that time, and
Yeah.
he was helping people. That's all he did was help people, and there were people that didn't like that, and that's one thing that I could not understand. Like at one time, I got all confused on who Jesus was too. I was like, "Nah, there's
Yeah.
no way," because these people talk about Jesus, but they're not living like it. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, and like you said, as a kid, we recognize that. That's when I noticed it as a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
When I
yeah,
heard
and I think
the
that's a lot of people, right? A lot of people recognize that, and so it turns them from the faith, right?
yeah.
Because they see people who go to church on Sunday, and then they doing all the worldly things throughout the week, you know? And so as soon as they leave the church, they at home doing whatever it is that they
Yeah.
doing. And so, and I've had a lot of people tell me that, right? And
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, I understand that and I get it because I saw it too as a kid, right? And so it was something that someone told me a couple years ago. I'll never forget. She said that um, people don't, um, she said it's not God that people don't like believe in. It's Jesus that people don't want to really accept, right?
Yeah.
And so um, I was just
Yep.
like blown away by that because I was like, you know what? That was my struggle. Like I didn't want to accept that. Like it was this man who's supposed to be perfect and he's out here
Mhm.
doing these miracles and all these things. But until I started my journey and I really started to apply those principles and just like the way that he lived to my own life, you start to see it from a different
Yeah.
perspective. When you get out of your flesh and you in the spirit and you're like, wait a minute, okay, I see how people would react to a man who's doing these things. Like
Mm.
he just living his life
Yeah.
and he's bringing joy and and he's honoring the father and
Mhm.
people just hate it.
Yeah.
And it's like
They can't believe somebody that good because
no,
they can't be that good sometimes, right?
right. And then that's where
And
you got to understand we wrestle not against flesh and blood, right?
mhm, yeah.
So it's all these spirits and these principalities and these demons and all of these things that we wrestling against.
Yeah.
And so and when you look at it from that perspective, it's a lot easier to like to learn to treat people, like children almost, because you have to.
Yeah.
Um because they can be difficult to deal with, and it's a lot when you walking in that spirit. It's a lot that's coming up against you, and you're going to constantly have these roadblocks and things that are always going to try to stop you from the path
Yeah, he
that you're
was
on.
tempted 40 days and 40 nights, right? Something like
Man, yeah.
that. You
So
know? Yeah.
it get crazy out here,
But,
being
but
still.
he understood that. And when you read about him and understand him, he understood that. Like, he knew that you would, uh, fail at times. He knew that. He just at least wanted people to, at the bare minimum, to at least try, you know,
Yeah.
to be as
And
good as you.
once you are on the journey, you understand that it comes with persecution, right?
Yeah.
So, and when you're a believer in Jesus Christ, you understand that Christ was persecuted. So, when you're a believer and you're following his ways, you understand that you're going to come up against those same things.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
So,
other thing is some things is just inevitable. You can't fight it. Sometimes you just can't. I mean,
yeah,
sometimes you just gotta let things be what it is and just let like you said, it's part of the journey. And I think that's where a lot of people mistake the religion and belief from. They
yeah,
separate religion because they don't want to believe in this God because a certain group of people believe in that God dressed this way or look this way. And it's just like
right.
it should why are you worrying about the appearance in the first place? That's
Yeah,
where you're failing at because you're looking with your eyes to see whether you like it or not. You're not listening to the actual gospel or the sound, you
yeah.
know?
That's what it's about. It's not about, and that's my thing. I don't focus too much on the religion aspect of it, right? It's more about where your heart at, right?
Yeah.
Where your head at, where your heart at. And
Mhm.
that's what he talks about. People get too wrapped up in that religion and oh, how should I dress? How should I look? But it's not the outer appearance, it's the inner.
Mhm.
So that's the work that he's trying to do is change your heart and renew your mind.
Mm.
And so if you can't change your heart and renew your mind, the outer appearance that doesn't even matter
Mm. Yeah.
because he wants you to come as you are anyway.
Yeah.
He'll do all the shifting with the however it looks. Because a lot of times the people who truly following God ain't gonna look like what people expect them to look
Yeah,
like anyway.
you know what I mean? Jesus didn't hang out with the most richest
He was
people
with the
out there.
tax collectors and the prostitutes and
Yeah, and the
all those
alcoholics, you know
people.
what I'm saying? Yes, that was
Yeah,
his crew, you know?
yeah.
And that's crazy
So
because that makes you think that like why do we look down on people that are in those positions that the same that Jesus hung out with? Why are we looking down on them and not on Jesus? Why are you picking and choosing? That's just letting me know that you don't believe a word in Jesus because Jesus was trying to help them.
yeah.
You're condemning and talking about them, and he's over there trying to
And
help
there's
them.
no condemnation. No, we need
Yeah,
to be
so
able to convict people, and conviction happens anyway. If you're reading your word, and that's what a lot of people fail to do. A lot of people actually fail to read that word and understand it by
mhm,
themselves. They fail to yeah, they lack understanding, right? And so when you lack understanding of the word and you're not Holy Spirit led, but you more so led by validation from the world, or that's where you get all these people out here calling themselves prophets and
mm,
evangelists, and
mm,
all them titles don't even matter.
mhm.
It don't matter
Yeah,
because if
once
you
you
live in the way you're supposed to live,
Yeah, no, you don't have to call yourself that. Other people would bring that to you. That's why Jesus never walked around saying he was
Exactly.
the Messiah.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's just
So that
amazing because a lot of people don't understand that, and that's why, just knowing you personally and knowing your journey, and
mm,
of course, you know about mine. It's
mhm,
amazing that even after those years, we both understand that there is one. One time I didn't understand that. It took me
yeah,
a long time to understand that, and then I started reading every text, and then I was learning within that text it was always one, but it was just called a different name. Well, we all speak different languages, so we're going to use different words for different things,
right.
and that's why the word is different within us. And we have, like you said, people fail to understand the words. And
Yep.
I think that the biggest thing is failing to understand the word. When they
Yeah.
go around preaching it, you know what I mean?
And everybody's not called to do it, like it says many are called but few are chosen, right? And
Mhm.
so the thing is a lot of people they get wrapped up in that first fire that they get, right? You get lit when that fire get lit, then you're excited, then you think
Yeah.
it's just your responsibility to go out preaching to people, and that's not how it's
Yeah, yeah.
supposed to be. A lot of it, people lack those fruits of the spirit. They don't have self-control. People don't know how to suffer long. you know um People aren't kind,
Yeah,
honestly.
but that's just
Like,
like, but that, to be fair though, you can only press somebody's button so hard before they react, and everybody has their own pressure for a button. There's some people,
yeah,
got to push it all the way and they react, and then all you gotta do is just touch it and they react. So,
yeah, I mean, we human, right? So
yeah,
yeah,
that's what I was
everybody
gonna
has,
say. Yeah,
but if you are on like this journey that I'm on and following Jesus specifically, like it teaches you self-control, right?
yeah, yeah,
So that's gonna happen. There are gonna be people that push your buttons,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so because they're gonna do it not because it's the person, but the spirit that the person is operating in, right? And
Mhm.
so they're doing that. Um, Likely to get you out of character, right? To say, see, I told you this person is like that. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you got to learn self-control. It's been a lot of times. I don't know if you remember back in the day, but this mouth was kind of crazy.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
So,
I witnessed your journey, and
yeah,
just seeing where I was at just 20 years ago, 30 years
right.
ago, 40 years
Yep.
ago. When I was a little kid, I'm just like, man, I can see how I changed, and I really wish that I knew what I knew now when I
Yeah,
was at that age,
man.
because I feel like that was lost. But then I think to myself, okay, what if I would have known all this back then?
hmm
Then what would have happened? You know?
Yeah, then you probably wouldn't be where you at, right? So then
But then I wouldn't
that's the
have that
thing.
hardship though, because then I would have known everything, and I think that's
Yeah,
part of the journey I would have missed out
it's
on.
it's definitely part. I agree. I
Yeah,
That's, and as hard as some of the things is that we had to endure, you
yeah,
know, I wouldn't trade it either. Like, because I'm at where I'm at this point because of it, right?
yeah,
And I know the things that I know because of it. And so
mhm,
it's like, okay, that's that silver lining. Like in hindsight, you're like, okay, it makes sense, right?
mhm.
But as you going through it, oh, them trenches be tough, you
Yeah, but
know?
the breaking generational curses, that some people call it, because some people will call it that,
Yeah.
or some people
Yep.
will call it, growing up or being aware, or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. It's
Maturing.
maturing. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
friends and family is important, and that's all we have in our life. And then you have associates. I mean, of course, you keep yourself in distance away from associates and sometimes friends. And but um, Jesus' family wasn't, Joseph and Mary. His family was the prostitutes and the alcoholics. I mean, of course,
Yes.
that was his mom and dad, and that's who,
Yeah.
or
But those are his
his sister.
brothers and sisters.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
And it says that I always go back to scripture because that's my
Mm,
foundation. So it's, that it's the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb,
mm,
right? So those we're in covenant with through Christ, that's our family, that's our
mm,
brothers and sisters, our mother, our
mm.
father, like that. It's not those people who maybe your
Yeah,
relatives
yeah, yeah, yeah.
always. It could be sometimes for some people, But for a lot of us who called, I think to go a little bit higher, um, it's not all the time. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you have to separate yourself from your relatives and those people that you've known forever, and
Mm.
that's not an easy feat either.
Yeah, and I when as I was growing up, I was when I was a little kid, I went to church, but my parents didn't really live by the word. They would go
Right,
to church, and it wasn't all the time either. It was like, I guess, when a
right,
friend would invite them over as a special occasion or something like that.
right.
And of course, they had Bibles, and every house that we moved into, my mom would get the house blessed. I grew up in the Catholic church.
Okay.
And yeah, so and my pops was black and he was African American and he was Christian. So we kind of celebrated both sides because there's
Hmm.
different things that they do, like
Right.
for their religions and stuff. But my I couldn't understand at one time, I understand, why different religions celebrate and do the things they do. One thing I could understand about when it came to Catholics is that the way when you went to church and worshiped Jesus or the Virgin Mary, it
Hmm.
wasn't like you was happy to be alive. It was more like you was sad that they passed away. And I was like, man, we go to
Mm.
church and it was always sad, and then when we went to, like, a Baptist Christian church or something like that,
Hmm.
you see the singing and the dancing and the
Yeah,
joy
yeah,
and stuff. And I was just like, and then when you see around the world the way people do their funerals and stuff like that is always sad, and it is a lot to me, very sad. I've seen my fair share of people going and passing away,
yeah.
and it scares me a lot. It's just
Hmm.
that sometimes I struggle, and I'm struggling now. I guess this is part of my journey, is struggling with why am I so scared to pass away? I'm getting at that age now where
Hmm.
things are,
Yeah,
my body's starting to get older.
yeah. I think that's huge though, right? Like I think it's inevitable for all of us, right?
Mm,
But that is like the main fear that people have, right? Is
mhm.
passing away. And so, because my brother passed in
Yeah.
2020,
Yeah, I still got his
that
last messages on my thing still.
yeah, I got everything still, but that was like I couldn't run from it anymore, right?
Mhm,
So it's like mortality just slaps you in the face and you got to learn to deal with it. How you going to cope, right? So I ran to Jesus, right? And so it's that foundation and you can't like keep that fear of something that's going to happen anyway, like that is going to happen. You don't know when. We none of us know the
yeah,
day
yeah.
nor the hour, right? But um it's like once it's so close up on you, you can't really just kind of, well, you can if you
Mm,
choose not to grow, right, and
mm,
evolve. But when it's that close and it's a sibling or something like that, or a parent, I know a lot of people when they're parents, they go through things like that, or a child or whatever it is. But for me it was my brother, and
mm,
once that happened, it drew me in more to Christ, and it helped me to like release that fear
mm.
of passing away, right? Because when you read the word, you understand that there's life after this life, right? So we're
Yeah.
preparing in this life for eternity, where which is much longer than this life is going to be. That's forever, right? So when you're preparing to go meet the king, you want to represent him well while we here, because we in the world and not of the world. And you understand that when you walk in and you start to see, oh, this is why I've not been like everybody else, right? This is why
Mm.
I don't move like everybody else moves. I've kind of moved to the beat of my own drum, but it's not your drum, it's the creator's drum, right? And so you understand, like, you start to understand and see why you do things differently, and why you are the way that you are. But you also understand that you're preparing for eternity, right? And that this life is not the only life that we have. And so when you realize that, it's like you kind of excited and you kind of get bored with this life a little bit. And it's like, well, but we have to try to keep um faith,
Yeah.
that's that faith, right? It's like, okay, because this life is hard, it's not easy. It's
You ain't
not. It's
lying.
difficult, man. You
There's
know,
always
like
these trialing decisions, and
it is.
should I or shouldn't I, or should I go what if and what is, and it's all
Yeah.
these things, and it's just like, man, what
Yep.
can I do? And it's always making you think. Let me ask you, what's one of your favorite scriptures in the Bible? I'll tell you mine after you
Oh,
tell
tell
me.
me yours, and then I'm gonna tell you mine.
Mine is the is Psalm 82:6, where it says, "Ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High." I like that
Okay.
one because the simple fact that it lets me know that there is one God, God,
Yep.
with the capital God,
Period.
and the lowercase gods is basically saying that I can become like Him as long as I know who I am, and that's not
Period.
and and that to me struck me hard. I've always I don't. It's hard to remember all these scriptures because I find a whole bunch of them that I like, and
Yeah.
I always mix them up. So, but like I said, that's my favorite one because it's letting me know that I can be like Him as long as I know who I am. Because it also says in the Bible, "I am who I am," and that's when you was talking about, who am I? And that's why
Yes.
that's why I'm good.
I am that I am.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, and
So
that's one of my favorite ones.
yeah, and then that's when you also understand how to use language, right? How we
Mm,
have to, yeah, life and death is in the power of the tongue, right? So
mm.
the language that we speak is going to either bring life or death. And so anytime you place an I am in front of something, you got to understand that you ain't just talking about yourself, you're talking about the creator,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yep, yep. Yeah,
So
and
that's
yeah, it's a dual
important.
thing. Yeah, that's what I used to always or still think. I used to think that it was always just me. And I was
Yep.
like, no, I am is I got to combine the creator along with that, and and everything started making sense. And that's when I can like I said, I read so many different texts, and I know that in Hebrew, Elohim means it can mean one God or multiple gods, but I try to
Mhm.
understand the multiple gods part, and that's where it let me know that um, these other gods were just lower gods. It's not a word. Is First of
Mhm.
all, God doesn't have a name, so calling Him God is just the easiest format that we can. That's why we
Right.
add the capital G to it, or at least that's what I understand.
Yeah.
And then just because He doesn't have an actual name, what I'm saying, when saying His name and knowing who He is and seeing who He is, there's no possibility. You just know because it's there. It
Yeah.
is what it is. But then the gods, the gods part, the lowercase, is basically just saying the ones that help Him with what He needs done. Because it's not saying He can't do it Himself. He's just giving other people to also be themselves. That's why He
Mhm.
giving them free will. At least that's what I understand it
Free will. Yes, it's real. Yep.
as.
So my favorite scripture is Isaiah 40:31.
Mm,
It's those that hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They'll soar on wings like eagles. They'll run and not grow weary, and walk and not faint.
mm,
That's my favorite one. Because I've been through a lot of hard things, very difficult, very trying times, and I've had to endure a lot, right, for my journey.
mm,
So that is the scripture that just basically it gives me hope. It gives me like hope to look for that new day, even when I can't see that silver lining. It's like, okay, I know I have to run the scripture, right? And I have to read the scripture, and this is what He promises. And God is a God of His word. He's truth, and He doesn't tell a lie. So it's like you just have to trust and believe in what He says, no matter how long it takes, no matter what your circumstances look like. And you just have to believe. And I've seen miracles happen,
mm,
and it's really shocking a lot of times when things happen. I know that personally I'm connected by the things that the things that He shows me, the secrets He tells me, and so
mm.
part of I was saying earlier, how some people just aren't like people get that fire and then they're so ready to just go out and like speak and talk to other people and tell people and teach people. But everybody's not meant to be a teacher, right?
Mm,
Because as a teacher, you get judged more harshly, right?
yeah,
So if you leading people the wrong way, that judgment's coming upon you,
yeah.
and so um I think that it's a trend now for people to want to call themselves chosen and just kind of be in that seat of authority, but
Mm,
you got to go through a lot of
mm.
hardships to actually receive that authorship. Like you can't just be put you can't place yourself there.
Yo,
And it's a
that
lot of people that's placing themselves in those positions.
so I had a discussion yesterday with
Mhm.
this Native American guy named Chris Maynard. He's from the Kahari tribe,
Mhm.
and it's not federally recognized,
Okay.
but it is recognized in North Carolina, and he wrote a book on it, and he's the only person that ever wrote a book about the Kahari tribe. So
Okay.
it's the only book that's specifically about it. And just like you and me, in his book, he talks about how he was on his own journey
Yeah.
because he was a Native American guy. He is light skinned, so
Mhm.
he talks about how people would ask him, "Well, what are you?" and stuff like that, and he went through his own journey and found out that all his ancestry behind his indigenous people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he told me this specifically, and he says it in his book. Before he could even write about the tribe specifically by itself, being an authorship, the word that you use,
Yep.
he had to ask for forgiveness and ask for their permission. So before he even typed,
Mhm.
he even thought of one word on how to start
Mhm.
his book, he had to do that. So that was
Mhm.
basically now I'm going to tell you he's Native American, he's an indigenous. And I specifically asked him why is it that he follows the Christian faith, knowing that everybody will talk about with Native Americans they have their own gods and beliefs and stuff like that, and the whole thing
Yeah.
with the colonization, Jesus was pushed on them and stuff like that. And he
Right.
said that I'm not going to say it, but majority of the tribe members, they are Christian, and their
Mhm.
headquarters are Christian faith and stuff like that. And it's because he understands that there is one. So
Mhm.
that's what he specifically told me. So that just shows that even with you knowing me studying all the ancient history that I study, and then me talking to this Native American guy yesterday, Chris Maynard, about
Yeah.
it, I mean, it leads to one. And that's why, and I've read books where you said, you just said that you have your own, I guess you can say visions that God gives you and stuff like that. I've read a lot
Mhm.
of books from this lady named Dolores Cannon. So she was a
Okay.
hypnotist lady, basically one of the famous ones. It's like most people who know about her or know about hypnotism knows about her specifically. She wrote like
Okay.
15 books or something like that. And when she talked about um, in her books, in some of her books, of course, she talked about extraterrestrials, aliens, and all that other stuff. And then
Mhm.
other parts, she talked about religion and faith and stuff like that, using semantics, if you want it, if you will.
Yeah.
Even in the aliens and extraterrestrial parts, she would ask them about Jesus Christ, so they
Mhm.
would know. So it leads to one. So when I'm
Always.
reading something about aliens and extraterrestrials, I'm like, okay, I've read so many extraterrestrials and aliens
Yep.
about um you know from Waswell to Admiral Byrd to everything, and people would say they would ask the little question about Jesus, and it was like they knew who Jesus was and they knew that there was one God. They knew
Yep.
this.
Yep.
So even if you don't believe that, and just like you said, everybody knows who God and Jesus is.
Yeah.
Even atheism knows about God because
Right.
their whole fight, they wouldn't be atheists without there being a God.
Right.
So without the belief and the feeling and the understanding and the truth and
And
the
that's the one thing that's always been funny to me is like atheists, they have to believe because if they didn't, then what's the purpose of it,
yeah,
right?
what's their purpose of
So
it?
ultimately, they're just being rebellious. That's
Yeah,
all.
and that's
So,
what, and I think it's just because, and I studied the word, and a lot of
mhm.
them don't want to accept this. It's just not enough truth for them right now. Just like how we lost
Yeah.
our faith. We could
Right.
have been considered atheists at that moment, and we went and did
Yeah.
our research, and then we found
Yeah.
our journey brought us to where we're at. That word
Yeah.
can be looked down upon if you don't use it the correct way. And just like you said, words are important. So at least for me, anybody can be an atheist when they lose their faith. It's
Yeah.
whether how much research do you find out if there is one? If you believe there, you can't believe that there isn't a God forever. because there's
Right.
been plenty of times when I've read articles and seen documentaries when there's a long-lived atheist on his deathbed said,
And
"I
then
believe
they
in
turn,
God." Yeah, so yeah, you
I've
might say
seen
that
plenty of them
now,
too.
you know what I'm saying? So you might
Yeah.
say that right now, but okay, um, let's see what happens when you
You
when
know you gotta go
when
meet him one day, so,
yeah,
you
so you know
know.
what I'm saying? And to me, I just feel like they just don't have enough evidence at that time. And like you said, they're being
Mhm.
rebellious. The rebellious part
Yeah,
for them is that they're not looking. We went
yeah.
to go look for, okay, I gotta go find this person for
You
myself
say,
or this
"Seek and
image
you
or
shall
so.
find,"
Yeah,
right? You
that's
gotta
exactly
seek.
what I was. Yeah, if you seek, you shall find. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So I went to go find it. And I understood. I cannot believe that there isn't one if I believe all the mythologies that I believe today
Right,
because they have their own one. Okay.
right.
And they, because of different languages over tens and 15 thousands of years,
Yeah,
words may have changed, but it still means the same thing.
right,
You know what I mean? And
right.
there's also going to be false ones that's going to be written out there that's going to,
Exactly.
drop that bump on the road for you.
Yeah. And that's what I think what you just to kind of like piggyback off of what you just said, like people get caught up in the semantics of things, right? So they get caught up a lot in like the wording or like it's just a lot of it or just the logic of it all, right? Where I think that people need to understand that everything is not going to make sense, right? And
Nah,
we're
sure.
just as humans, we're never going to know everything, right?
It's like
So
when you said earlier that you have to have trust and faith. It's like with your kids, you tell your kids, just trust me, have faith in me. I'm not
yeah,
going to let nothing happen to you. I'm not going to
right,
bring you in this water, this pool, and just let you fall. I'm
right,
gonna help you. I'm gonna guide you. It's going to be rough. Yeah, water is going to get in your face. You might
right,
swallow some water or breathe some in a little bit because you're not
right.
listening, because you want to
Yeah,
be hard headed and do your own thing. But when you
yeah,
start having trust and faith in me, that's when you can start floating and swimming on easy and you're just sitting there
yeah.
chilling.
I think it's this misconception that once you start the journey or that you believe in God or believe in Jesus, that it's just supposed to be good stuff happening.
Yeah,
Why does God
no,
let all these bad things happen? Well, people have a choice,
free
right? Free
will.
will. So, and people just like that just goes out of the
You
window
can't,
with people
you know what I'm saying? You can't say, "Hey, God gives us free will," and then be mad because people use their free. You can be
because
mad
he
that they
allows
use
people
yeah,
to.
yeah, because He allows. You can be mad that the people are doing the bad things that they're doing, but you can't be mad at the fact that He's giving people free will, especially if you're
Exactly.
saying that that's one of the reasons why you believe Him in the first place. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
So that is a huge misconception that I see, and a lot of times, like I think that's where a lot of people lose their faith too.
Mhm.
Is like bad things happen, right? And so when they're going through these bad things, they're like, "Oh, I don't believe he's not. Why would he let these bad things happen?" And it's like, well, people have a choice in the matter too. And then if you believe in God, you got to believe in the other end as well.
Yeah,
It's the devil, it's the enemy,
yeah,
right? So you see every movie, and I teach my son this all the time. Every movie from when you're a kid, it's always good and evil,
yeah,
right? And so it's like if we see that from the time we're a child, that even on the toddler TV shows, like there's always somebody that's evil that's trying to
yeah,
overtake the good, right? And so they're always up against it's this battle. And so if you see that in everything, it's like you have to understand, and that's what deliverance is about, right?
yeah,
You got to understand that there's an enemy that we're coming up against. There's an enemy that is trying to fight for our souls, right? And this
yeah,
is a daily thing. And so once you learn that the things that you're watching, listening to, that you're reading, the people that you're around,
the
all of this
music,
can affect that.
yeah, the
Yes.
music,
So
yeah,
everything it affects that. And so once you start to um, have boundaries and keep them in place, and you start to honor those things, like honor your ear gates and your eye gates, and even your mouth, what's coming out of your mouth, like once you start to honor those things, then and really just wake up. A lot of people just sleepwalking, like they
I
are like
like
you
how you
gotta
said
wake
this.
up. It's
People
like,
sleepwalking.
but sometimes we gotta get that shaking, to wake us up, like
Sleepwalking.
for
Yeah,
real.
you're right. Because
Everybody
they up, they moving, but they mind is sleep.
everybody's
They sleeping.
docile, right? And so
Yeah,
they think that God is docile because we're docile, because we're
yeah,
constantly getting spoon fed by society, right? The
yeah.
government, everything, everybody's trying to like keep us in this docile state of mind,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah,
so once you finally get shook, and a lot of times something has to really shake you
That
to your core
losing
and
your
wake you
faith,
up.
yeah, in something,
Exactly.
yeah.
Then where it's a lot of times I know for I've seen, and I've like for men, it's a lot of times like a near death experience for men.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that was mine. That was mine.
I
That's what
know.
woke me up. That's what woke me up.
Exactly. It's a near death experience, right? See, so that's crazy because exactly
Yeah.
I know the situation with you,
Yeah.
and so a lot of times that is what happens with men. They have a near death experience and then finally they're shook, and then they either wake up or they don't. They continue
Mhm.
back, and so I do feel like God chooses who he allows to wake up, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes people just go back into like that docile state, right? Because they're more comfortable there. They don't want to do the work of growing. They don't want to do the work of changing because it is grueling. It's hard work, and if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, but it's not easy. So everybody's not going to choose to do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times just for me, I can say, like for women, I think that we go through heartbreak, right?
Mhm.
Which will shake us and wake us.
Mhm.
So, you get your heart broke pretty good. Yeah, you're gonna sit down somewhere and then you're gonna try to,
Mhm.
figure out, okay, what's going on, because
Mhm.
that's almost like a near death, especially
Mhm.
for somebody who like
Well, it
just
kills your
loves
soul.
love, and
Yeah,
and
it kills y'all soul. You have a soul. So
yeah,
yeah,
and it could almost take you out of here,
yeah.
and so that's like the near death experience for, I would say, women, right? Is like heartbreak, right? And then when that happens, I know for me, it wasn't just one thing. It was my brother passing, and it was a couple of other things back to back, like
Mhm.
that. Just I was like, okay, somebody trying to take me out of here,
They want to see how tough you are.
man. So once I realized that, I had to start understanding the language, right? I had to start understanding like, who is my enemy? What am I up against? And so by reading the Bible, you start to learn who your enemy is by reading deliverance books, because I read a lot of deliverance books. I have an aunt who sends me like a lot of literature to just kind of put language to all the things that I'm experiencing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so, and then I journal a lot. So by
That's
journaling,
important.
and
Journaling. Yeah,
man,
that's why I have
people
my
don't
website.
realize how.
That's basically my website is a journal. Is what I've learned through the years,
Yep.
and my YouTube is basically what I've learned through the years.
I
Sometimes
got like stacks of journals. Like people
yeah.
don't realize like how therapeutic that
I
is,
wish I'd have started when I was younger so I can look back 20, 30 years at this
That's
day
one
and
thing
be
I'm
like,
grateful for. My mom, she used to have us journaling as
yeah,
kids and stuff. Like from
yeah,
a real young age, she used to buy us journals, like diaries and stuff
yeah,
with the little locks, and we
yeah,
open the lock. And I used to use mine. I don't know about my
yeah.
siblings, but I know I used to use mine. And I don't have those, but I have like tons of. I go through maybe like
When I was growing up,
4 or
boys
5
weren't
journals a
supposed to
year,
have journals.
huh?
I said when I was growing up, boys weren't supposed to have journals.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That wasn't that's not something
See,
you're supposed to
that's
have.
that.
Yeah.
That's that. Yeah. See,
But see,
society
now that
trying
I'm
to.
older, and I do have a son, and I'm just waiting for
Mhm.
him to get at the right point. But I want my kids to be able to record who they are. A lot of people say, "Oh, these people
Yes.
doing TikTok and this and that." Yeah, all that stuff can be used badly. But if you're doing things that you like if you want to talk about the Lord and Jesus Christ, you can
Yep.
talk about Him on your YouTube channel, and that can be
Yep.
there forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Your kids can see that when you're no longer here. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Seeing what kind
Mhm.
of person you are. That's why on my YouTube channel, sometimes you'll get me cursing because I get mad at some of the people that share some of the stupid stuff that they share. And I'm literally like, yo, I got the book right here. I'm literally reading it. I'm looking
Yeah.
right at it. You know what I'm saying? So, and
Yep.
I challenge it. And I'm telling you, I always keep around this New Jerusalem Bible right here, the study edition. And
Okay.
the real reason why, and I tell you, everything that I study leads to the Bible. I don't care if
Yep.
it came tens and thousands of years. Uh, Jesus was coming to earth, so it was
Yep.
inevitable. It was just when we started writing it down, when people started recording that,
Yeah.
okay, this was, and then when he came, he finally came. But I get this book because when people start naming off scriptures, I come here and I like an in-depth understanding of it because it kind of tells you exactly what the scripture says and stuff like that. I also have like a
Yeah.
Hebrew version and stuff to it
Okay.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But this one I use specifically only because it's the study edition. It's supposed to be the most easiest one to understand that combines all the Hebrew, Aramaic, and Septuagint
Oh,
Greek
that's so
and stuff like
cool.
that. So
Yeah.
I try to keep this one on deck. And the reason why is for one reason, I don't like to pick and choose which Bible is right. I like to
Right.
use sometimes when people start pissing me off online and stuff like that, and they
Yeah.
start preaching about the Bible, and I know they don't know what they're talking about. I say, well, which
Man,
version you talking about, the King James or the New
they always gonna
International
say the
Version?
King James.
Ex-
They all it's that's without a doubt. They always,
yeah,
well, in the King James, and it's just
yeah.
like, okay, yep, you
And I
got
was
it.
like
You
that. Well,
got
I know
it.
exactly where this conversation is going to go, so I'm gonna go ahead
Right.
and buy out now because I get what you're saying. All right, cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool. All right,
Man, I not no disrespect, but I hate to come up on like a Hebrew Israelite type of hotep, them kind be, listen, it's your world. You got it.
you
Okay.
know,
I'm not
we
gonna argue.
I just found out we have one Israelite temple right here in my city. That's a trailer actually, like
Hmm.
and like just down the road. And I don't know when they put it up, but I just noticed it like the last year or two. I'm tempted to go down there and just be
Oh,
like, "Yo, can I get a podcast discussion with you guys? Because I got some
that'd be
serious
cool.
questions to ask you guys."
Yeah.
I said I could bring my equipment up here, and
Yeah.
like I said, I try. I only do this because for two reasons. One, I don't want my kids when they grow up and saying, "Hey, why did my dad tell me this way? Why did he tell
Yeah.
me to believe this? Why did he tell me this?"
Yeah.
I want them to say, "Okay, well, he has a whole. I don't know. I could probably have like 1,000 videos by then, thousands of videos of all this
Yeah.
stuff, and you can see what led me on that journey to why I
Yeah.
believe what I believe." So you're not just saying,
But that's
"Yeah,
wealth right there. That's
yeah,
wealth. You're leaving knowledge for your
yeah."
kids, and like you
No,
have the material actually that they can go and they can look at. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? I think that's wealth. That's wealth to me, is like passing down knowledge and
yeah,
wisdom to the next generation. Whereas the world looks at wealth as, oh, having money and
mm.
material things. Well, that stuff can be gone tomorrow. You know what I'm
But
saying? But
what's in your head, that's
if
gonna
you
stay.
have, yeah, if you got knowledge and wisdom, that's forever,
You know,
and so that's the important thing. And I think that I'm grateful that a lot of us are realizing that now, because the generation before us they weren't giving us the game. You know what I'm
nah, they
saying?
were
They weren't
sure
teaching
wasn't.
us the things we needed to know.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
otherwise we might have known some things sooner, right? And we
Mm.
probably wouldn't have to go through these things. But I do believe that it was all, that's all a part of
The
his
journey.
grand plan. But that's a part of his grand
Yeah.
plan of everything too, is now you see this whole generation of people who are being awakened, right?
Mm.
And who are seeking deeper knowledge and understanding about
Yeah,
the creator, right?
yeah,
And this is why we're here, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's why it's just like, if people aren't seeking something, or submitting to something higher than themselves, it's like, I can't really deal with that anymore, right? Because it's like, you're only submitting to yourself, right?
Mm.
And we may have all done that at one point. And so it's like, that's why I say you have to be kind of like, you have to treat people like little children, because sometimes people actually don't know, and sometimes people are just rebellious and they don't care, they don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Or sometimes they working for the enemy, sometimes they on the other team, and
Yeah, they're trying
so
to take you away out your zone. That's what that's one part of my journey was trying to figure out how to stop trying to reply to everybody. But I was also on the
yeah.
path of promoting my book, so I was like, man, I got to reply to people because I got to promote my book. One of the reasons why I wrote my book was for two reasons. One, because I did my website, and
Hmm.
after I pass away, there's not going to be anybody there to take care of it. You know what I'm saying? It's going to go away. All the information is going to be gone. Same thing with YouTube. YouTube, they can shut me down tomorrow and I have to start over.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I have majority of my stuff online, and this is whatever anyway. I have like Rumble and Spotify and stuff like that. But the point is
Hmm.
that this stuff won't last forever. I wrote
Right.
a book because that's at the bare minimum. I think digitally, and because I wrote a book, it might last forever. And the only reason why I say that is because most of the time when things get on digital, you're not gonna get rid
It's
of that
it's
anyway. Yeah,
immortality.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I
And I
always,
just realized that when I finished mine, like I felt like the Lord was speaking that to me. That's
yeah,
eternal. That's you've immortalized yourself.
yeah. Because I always say this: you die twice. You die once physically, and you die the second time when nobody mentions your name again. I always say
Mm.
that.
Well, I think it might be 3 then, because when in my walk, we gotta die and be reborn, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, but that's really what I believe. Like, I believe that,
Yeah,
your life could continue as long as somebody speaks of your name, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And it depends on the type of, I guess, imprint you put on this world, or what kind of stamp you wanna put on this world. And I feel like writing books are important because of the simple fact that, you write this book, you can pass this down to your kids, and your kids can pass it on to them, and down the line, and so on and so forth. You can
Yeah.
even ask, and I'll even tell you this, because this is what I'm doing. I'm actually going
Mhm.
to go. I haven't done it yet, but I just got to push the button on doing it. I just
Mhm.
got to type in, go to the U.S. Congress Library or something like that. It's one of the, something like that, where you can petition to have your book put into their library, and then once
Oh,
it's put
okay.
into the library, it's there forever. Anybody can do it.
Wow.
They'll just leave it digital. They might not have a copy of it. They might get a
Right.
copy of it, but at bare minimum, it'll
Be like a
be
digital
digital.
footprint of it?
Yeah, the digital blueprint of it, so, or something like that. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I recommend doing that. I'm gonna do that. And the only reason why I say that is because, we do want to live forever. I mean, look at everything in the Bible. Everybody wanted to
Mhm.
live forever on some. I mean, they lived for very long time periods
They
of time.
did back then. They probably thought it was short back then.
Yeah. Yeah, these
Living for
120
hundreds of years
years,
and stuff.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
not enough time to do everything in these 120 years if you get that, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, but,
Yeah.
I really feel like, I connected with you a lot because of the simple fact that I've watched your journey. Like I said, I've watched everything. I mean, we discussed things offline also, and
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
conversations. So we
Yeah.
I followed your journey, and there are times when and I know you just as well as you. I just felt helpless. Like, there's nothing I could do. I can do something, but then it ain't gonna work out like how I want it to
Man.
work out, because it's gonna be too different. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, nah,
Yeah.
I can't do that. And then I was like, what can I do monetarily? And I was like, well, I can spend all this money doing this stuff, but then
Mhm.
what does that help at the end of the day? You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because I did go down that route at one time,
Yeah.
and it kind of put me in a dent, and I was like, dang, that wasn't worth it at all. Like, I should just
Mhm.
never just left it alone, or something
Yeah.
like that. And everything, and then having my outer body experience, my dear near death experience.
Mhm.
I don't sleep at night much at all, really. I'm always up just chilling,
Mhm.
working on something because I'm bored or something like that. I used to play games a lot, and this is what you said earlier. You was like that people just are sleepwalking, and I feel like you're right, because there was a time when I used to just play video games just to escape. But then every video game that I played had something to do with religion or mythology of some sort.
Mhm.
Like, literally every single
Yeah.
game that I played had something to do with it, and I couldn't escape it. I would see it on TV,
It's
I would see it
everywhere.
on movies. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
in everything, I
Yeah.
promise you.
It is, it is.
It all leads to him, I'm telling you, it
Yeah.
does, it really does, you see it everywhere.
Yeah, and I was like, "Yo," I said, "I can't figure this out." So I was like, "So what I'm gonna do is I'll say, all right, I'm mixed with all this stuff. I wanna know all these religions right here. I wanna know all these
Yeah,
beliefs and this stuff like that." And then no matter what, in due time, I started it all just went back to the one, into the Bible.
yep,
And I was like, okay, I can read the Bible over and over again, but how intelligent would I be on the Bible? And I was like, hell, I'm not intelligent on it now, because I can't, because there's people who used to memorize it. And that's when
yeah.
I used to remember, like, going back to the movies with Book of Eli. Remember when Denzel was going through,
Book of Eli.
huh? Oh, you ain't
I don't
see
think
it?
I've seen it,
Oh, no, I
mm-mm.
ain't gonna say nothing. Then you need to go see that movie then.
Yeah, I think it's on Tubi actually right
Watch
now,
it,
so
watch it,
I'll
watch
watch
it,
it,
watch it
yeah,
after this. I'm telling you, I almost spoiled it.
okay,
Watch it after this and remember what we was talking about, because I'm telling you, it was a
okay,
journey, and I'm telling you, it's just crazy of everything. If you put it into, just into entertainment wise. So when I started learning about all these myths and these religions and all this other stuff, and watching these television shows that had this stuff or the movies in it, I was like, oh, now I understand it more. But then I was
yeah,
like, guess what? It all went back to one anyway. So I was like, what I want to do, and I'm probably going to do this probably the next few years, is for at least 5 years straight. All I want to do is just study the Bible. I don't know when I want to do it yet, but I want to
yeah,
feel like I know enough, because I don't feel like, I've heard people say I've read thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of books. And I came to the point where, and I've said this so many times in other discussions, that if your thousands and thousands of books lead you back to one book, then all you did was just heard rehashes of one book. So you
That's
just should have
it.
just read one book. So I want to get to the point where
That's
I've
all
read it.
I'm telling you.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I want to say, when it comes to mythology and religion, I want to at least read enough where I feel like, okay, I feel like I'm comfortable with the material I have now. So for the next
Yeah.
5 years, all I want to do is just study the Bible, and
Yeah.
that includes the Bible, the Quran,
Mm-hmm.
um, and probably just those two. And the only
Mm-hmm.
reason why those two is because, for the simple fact that there's a lot of hate between them two denominations or faiths, and I just want to see where it started at. So for the next 5 years, and within those 5 years, I want to be able to study those two and see what
Yeah.
is the, what it
Yeah.
is, and what is
Yeah.
misinterpreted that people are taking literally, and not, you know,
Right.
some other philosophically or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm telling you, everything would lead to that one, and it would
It
always.
really will.
And I was just like, so that's why I said, when for them, I think I'm probably gonna do it when I hit 50. Wait till I hit 50,
Okay. Yeah.
and then say, okay, yeah, this is the middle ground. I think for the next 5 years,
Yeah.
this is all I want to study. I might pick up
Okay.
a couple of books in between, but this is
Yeah.
what I'm going to solely study for. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I think it's important, because a lot of people used to memorize that Bible. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They used
Yeah.
to
But
remember.
But I'll tell you, it's yeah, a lot of people can memorize it, and me, I don't think I'm like the greatest with memorizing like everything. I know some scripture, but it's just like I think once that Holy Spirit hits you, it just is in you. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like you don't even have to memorize it. It's just you're gonna speak it. Like
yeah,
your actions are gonna show it, you know? And so that's the part I say where with Christ, it's the Trinity, right? The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
hmm,
And so it's like you understand that he will fill you with his Holy Spirit if you live in righteously, right? And so once you have the Holy Spirit gives you understanding. He gives you knowledge that just like blows your mind, that it's supernatural, right?
yeah,
He gives you just like I said, the understanding. He gives you this peace that surpasses all understanding, where it's like
mm,
no matter what your circumstances look like, you just somehow at peace and it's gonna work out, right? Like
yeah,
so I think that by me, and I say I'll use myself and not I'm not an arrogant person. But I do have a lot of confidence with my walk now because I understand who I am and whose
mm,
I am, right? I know for a fact I'm the daughter of a king, the king of all kings, right?
mm,
And so there's nothing that anybody can say about me or do to me that really will move or shake me like it
yeah,
used to. You know what I'm saying? Because I understand that now. There was a time where I didn't understand that, right? And
mm,
that's where people are. A lot of people are. They're in search and seeking, who they are. They don't know their identity. But
mm,
once you figure out your identity, and I know my identity and who is rooted, I'm very rooted in it.
yeah,
That's my foundation. Whenever something happens, not saying I don't get shook up, I don't get fearful, not saying I'm a human, right? So I experience all these things too. But I always go back there. That is my foundation, right? And so, with all of the things that I have had to endure throughout my process, I've learned that humbling myself and submitting at the feet of the Father, that is what I got to do.
yeah, yeah,
So, when, and that's just, I think that's a lot of people's issue is not wanting to submit, right? Like I said, they
yeah.
don't want to submit to something higher than themselves. It's a lot of people who want to be
It's
self-made
that
and
ego.
self. It's all ego, right? So that's that flesh. And when we were just talking about dying, we actually supposed to die to our flesh daily, right?
Yeah,
So we really supposed to die every day, but you know, a lot of people aren't willing to do that. They're not willing to humble themselves. They're not willing to submit. They're not willing to do those things. And so, and it takes a strong,
yeah, that's my
strong.
weakness, is being humble, because I know I ain't humble, only because I feel like the way people
You've been
come
that
at
way
me.
though. You've been that
Yeah.
way.
I just don't feel like I'm humble. I don't think it'll ever happen either, and I know that's my journey. But it, I think it's also a gift and a curse, because my
Mhm.
humbleness, that me not being humble comes from me knowing what I know. Just like you
Yeah.
said, nobody can
Yeah.
tell you anything.
Mhm.
So when I don't have any intentions, that people think that I have intentions, and I don't know
Mhm.
why people think that I have intentions. Maybe that's just like they see it in some
Yeah.
way. I don't know, maybe perception, appearance, or something that I do.
Yeah.
But I don't have any intentions. I literally be like asking questions. That's most of my problem, is that I ask a lot of questions, and I've
Yeah.
always had that. I always asked questions. If it didn't make
Mhm.
sense to me, I wanted to ask. That's what led me on this journey, and wanted had me learn what I've learned right now, and led me to where I'm at now. And it's
Yeah.
not even because I was trying to prove anything right or wrong. I just wanted to know. If you want me to
Yeah.
prove something right or wrong, and you have to come at me sideways, and I'm gonna come on sideways too, because I got time for it. I mean,
Right.
I just do. I make time for it.
Yeah.
Be honest with you, and the only reason why is
Mhm.
because I think it helps me release some of that PTSD that I have in me. So when somebody gets
Yeah.
on me and stuff like that, like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is prime time right here. So I can go ahead
Yeah.
and do it. I got a little moment, and then I use it to also to promote my book. I mean, I became a best-selling author. I mean, seriously, that
Okay.
I didn't think that was going to
I
happen.
still
I
gotta
just
get my copy, so
Yeah, I
I'm
got you.
definitely
I can
gonna do
send you
that.
one. I can send you one.
Okay, yeah, yep.
Yeah, I can send you one. I I when the way I was promoting was, I walked in the room knowing I knew like I was the shit, basically. Like, you couldn't
Yeah.
tell me nothing. Like, I don't care what you had. I don't care if you was a PhD
Mhm.
recipient. I don't care if you was,
Right.
the
I
the
think that's
smartest
a
man in
lot
the
of,
world.
I think a lot of men struggle there. That's the submitting part, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
y'all are so, men are so, like, action based and, like,
yeah,
ego filled, right?
yeah. As I
Y'all
said, it's the
are
ego.
it's ego with y'all, and y'all are, I've told some men that I spoke to in the past, like, um, men do, like, um y'all are just used to doing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas women, we are more so we receive, right? And so it's like, but now it's all confused and stuff because
Now
how
it's
the world
confused
is
because
set up. Yeah.
how the world,
So
everybody lost they roles in the world now, and that's why,
now men trying to
if wind
receive
wanted to be
and
water, where would we be at if wind wanted to be water? You know what I'm
right.
saying?
So it's yeah, it's all confused in
Think
the
about
world
that
and
for a
stuff
second.
now.
The wind wanted to be water for a second. Just think
Right.
about that. You know what I'm saying? And you're right. This whole world, man, the way this world is, everybody's just forgetting, and they're being reminded of it, and they don't care. It's like, asking God for help in the middle of an ocean. He sent you a flotation device, and you deny it because
You're
you're waiting
right.
for God to come and help you. And then he sends you a ship, and you deny getting on the ship. And then he sends you a helicopter coast guard, and you deny that. And then you look up at him and say, "Why have you forsaken me, God?" And you're like, "Yo, I just sent you three
Yeah.
things to help you get on there. You ain't take neither
Right.
one of them." You know what I'm saying?
Right. But see,
So,
that also comes with learning, like, just kind of unplugging, right? Because we're so plugged into the world and what the world doing. We all on these devices and all this stuff. So people got to learn how to unplug. And then in that time where you spend alone with him, then you learn discernment, right? He gives you discernment. And
yeah.
then you'll learn how to, okay, what things are for you and what things aren't, right? And even if you make mistakes, you still should learn, right? If I do choose the wrong thing and say I wasn't supposed to choose that thing, well then hopefully I'm leaving from that with some lessons and I'm learning something from it, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just moving
I
forward and
like how
keep
you
making
said
the
that.
same, you know, because we do that too. We make a lot of mistakes and then um we don't learn from them all the time. you know,
No, we don't.
we keep making those same mistakes, and then finally, you're like, oh, okay, this is why this isn't going the way it's supposed to.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but some people never learn, right? And some people just continue on doing that
Most of
same
them
old.
don't ever care to want to learn.
They don't.
That's where the ignorance come at. They don't want to learn. They got the information. They got
Yeah,
the
but that's ego, right?
yeah. That's the ego. I'm
So,
telling you, I
and that's
struggle with it. I ain't
and
gonna
that's
lie.
it's
I
pride
know for a
also.
fact that at 42, I still like fighting. So when a dude try to come at me different, I'm just like, yo, we can bulk it up or not, bro. I don't. It don't matter to me. I got bail money. I hope you got bail money. Which one?
Definitely remember that about you for sure.
So
So,
and the only reason why is because I felt like I believe I read the I Ching. I read, a lot of the, study meditation and stuff like that, and yin and
yeah,
yang and evil and good. And I'm a Libra, so I have to balance myself out. So as much as I'm good, I also have to have some of that roughness to the side where I'm, I can go about doing something like, getting into a confrontation, as long as I know how to keep it very simple and cordial. If it gets out of hand, I can protect myself, because in this world, a lot of people don't even like to have conversations. They just want to go straight to the argument part, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, it's
And
a
I'm
s
just,
it's a debate it's a debate.
yeah, it's always a debate. And I'm just like, okay, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just asking
Mhm.
you, why do you believe what you believe in? And a lot of times, a lot of people they argue about what they believe in. You don't have to argue about what you believe in. Just say it and let it roll off your tongue, and that's it.
Right.
You know what I'm
So that's
saying?
yeah, and I think, yeah, that's huge now, right? People, for one, like when you do have your beliefs that you're kind of, that you're strong on, and people don't know how to meet people where they're at, right? And so it's like, okay, you may know all these things today, but at one point you didn't, right?
Didn't know,
So
yeah, exactly. That's what a lot of people don't understand is, and it took me a long time to realize that one of the dumbest things that I remember saying when I was younger was saying telling somebody to go research or go Google it if when I had the information. If
mhm,
now I'm on the verge of not
stop.
just saying that. I'm telling people, yo, look, hey, this is what the information says. If you don't believe me, go research it for yourself. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Yeah.
that's the same thing with bringing up the Bible with faith. When people say, why is God doing this to me? And I said, are you learning anything from it? And
Mhm.
that's when usually sometimes you got to stop and think is, okay, what can I learn from this? And how can I pass this knowledge on to not let somebody else go through this? And
Right.
that's the whole thing with, with anything that's crazy that happens in this world, from trusting strangers,
Mhm.
somebody had to fall victim to being a stranger for other people to say, hey, don't do that no more. Just like how when Jesus was tempted, the devil tried to tempt him.
Yeah.
And that's the first stranger to Jesus. Is he was the trying to bring him,
Yeah.
and he was like, look, don't be tempted by others. Just
Yeah.
don't be tempted.
Yep.
And but he also talked about people being weak. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
it's amazing that we will judge others for their weakness and don't even look
Mhm.
at our own. That's basically what I'm saying, is that we judge other
Yes.
people for their
So that's,
weaknesses, and not even understanding why they had that weakness in the first place.
yeah, that's,
It could be
it
100 different
biblically is
reason ways.
looking at pointing out the speck in your brother's eye instead
Yeah,
of, looking at your own. So yeah, that's biblical too,
yeah,
and yeah, we got that bad, right? We
yeah,
people do. We
mm,
always want to tell somebody else how to be or what they should be doing, and not really displaying those same characteristics, not being an example, right? So that's one thing that I'm huge on, is like being an example of what I'm talking about, right? So
yeah,
if I'm not living that way, and I know that people who've known me for years, like you and just other people that I know who have seen the transformation in me over the years, like they can see it and know like this is real deal. It's not just to be, I don't just post this online. I live like this daily.
yeah,
Um, and so that is a big thing though, where you have those people who they want to point out everything, and it's that condemnation, that spirit of condemnation, right? They don't, and we shouldn't be condemning nobody, because
yeah,
then the way you judge, you'll be judged. So if you're condemning others, then you'll be condemned, and what we want to do is just we want people to feel conviction, not condemn.
Got a little hype now, can I let it die down? I remember days in the trench. Time to go hard then, time to go all in, time to get my all to this shit. Panamera maxed out, first class flights out, Atlantic to Pacific, yeah, it's lit.